Hey Glenna, do you know what time it is? Well, of course you don't. It's a Guild Wars 2 PvE guide time. Hello everyone and welcome back to Goof Gaming. Finally gonna do a PvE guide time. I've had many people request a PvE guide / tutorial on a class. So I've decided with Guardian. It's not like I've been like neglecting it or anything and like not trying to do it. But no, honestly, I really do enjoy PvE, but my PvP videos, I don't know, I feel like doing PvP is so much more simple because there's not as many factors when going into PvP, and I'm semi-lazy person, so I've been doing more PvP than PvE, but I thought I would challenge myself a little bit today and do a PvE guide video, and more specifically for the Guardian in raids, the DPS / support, minor support aspects. It's slightly different from the build you'll find on Meta Battle, but this is what has worked for me, and this is how I've kind of manipulated it. So the very first thing that we're going to be looking at is the actual gear I use. Now, for the most part, as I scroll down, you'll see it's basically all Berserker's gear, and that's because it is, and you probably should be running it. Now, the rune I run is a Scholar's rune, and this is suggested on the MetaBata build website, and I also agree with it because it's power, it's frosty, you're going to be critting more, you're going to be doing stronger crits, not necessarily critting more, but doing stronger crits, and doing more flat damage, so that's all we want because we are a DPS build. Now personally, I have almost full ascended. I'm only missing my boots, my arms, and my shoulders. Everything else I pretty much have as ascended. I have my rings, my amulets, my accessories, and my backpack. So Berserker, try to go for ascended, and runes of the Scholar. Now for the weapons, you're going to want Sigil of Accuracy and Sigil of Force. Sadly, I don't have Sigil of Force at the moment, and neither on my longbow or greatsword, but that's because I'm cheap, and I really need to get some Sigils of Force to put on, but that's going to wait. No, I'm going to go after this video and get some Sigils of Force, because I just realized that I didn't have it, but Sigils of Force all the way. Next, we're going to move into the actual build and what I use for my specializations. First off, we're going to do Zeal, because I feel like Zeal's kind of weird. It's like a Condi damage hybrid. I don't know. It's weird. At least in my opinion. Excuse me. So the first one we're going to be taking is Fiery Wrath, which just increases your damage against burning foes by 7%. Now, with this build, and especially with the specialization traits that we take, you'll notice that it's a lot of damage modifications and increasing the amount of damage you do. So just keep that in the back of your mind. Second one I'm taking is Zealous Blade. Attack with your greatswords, deal extra damage, and also heal you. The greatsword abilities are also reduced by 20%. Or the recharge is reduced by 20%. Now, on the Meta Battle build website, it's always a mouthful for me, it says to take Kindled Zeal, but as I have found that my greatsword works better for me, and it is ascended, so at this moment I'm using a greatsword. I would rather take Zealous Blade just to get more damage out of my greatsword than go for Condi damage, which I'm not really built for, though Condi damage is nice. And if you're going to swap out the greatsword for a hammer, I would definitely say go for Kindled Zeal. Next one we're taking is Symbolic Avenger. This is basically you deal 10% more damage to foes that stand in your symbol. This is another reason why Hammer is also strong, is because the Hammer auto attack, at the final attack of the auto attack chain, it creates a symbol. And you're basically going to have your enemy standing in that symbol 24/7 if you basically farm on Hammer. Though I sometimes switch off from Hammer to Greatsword. Sometimes for Greatsword because I feel like it might provide more utility or more burst damage, but with Hammer it does provide a decent amount of damage, especially with the second skill, and also nice CC with its ring, its banish, and its I forgot what this skill is called, Zealot's Embrace, which immobilizes a target. So that is Zeal. And next we have Honor. I take Protective Reviver just because of the support aspect of getting your fellow teammates up, especially in a raid. If someone goes down, you can't revive them. If they're fully dead, you can't revive them. So you want to get the downed up quickly, because that means you're not wasting your time on a particular boss and losing time on your timer, and you also just get to kill them faster and get it done with and move on to the next boss. You don't really have any use for Protector's Impact or Invigorated Bulwark. I would say Invigorated Bulwark, if you were maybe going for like a tank guardian, possibly. I don't know. Possibly. Which I might also do a video on that in the future, because that's also been quite fascinating for me. Next, I take Empowering Might. You and nearby allies gain might when you land a critical hit. Might is always really nice, and in raids, it's preferred to have a full stack of might, because that just means you're going to be doing a lot more damage. If you don't have a stack of 25 might, I guess you can kind of feel the damage reduction if you didn't have a full stack, but you'll typically have near a full stack of might. But this just helps. Period Aegis, if you happen to be dying a lot, I don't know, and your group happens to be dying a lot, maybe Pure of Heart, but the safest one is Empowering Might. So, next we're taking Writ of Persistence. This actually plays very well with Symbolic Avenger. It says symbols last longer, they're larger, and they provide a minor amount of healing to allies that are in it. Another reason why Hammer is, again, another nice support kind of category weapon. But the duration increased for your actual symbols means that they'll be taking more damage longer if they're standing in it. And they're larger, so then if they happen to move, they still have a decent chance of still standing in it, just because the radius is larger. So that is the honor trait line, more supporty. And then finally, our elite specialization, the Dragon Hunter. I'm taking Piercing Light, traps slow enemies when it's activated, and reduce skill recharge times. So you'll be applying slow to your enemies, which is, that's okay. For the CC break bar, possibly if they're moving and they're using skills. I don't know if slow actually does affect break bars. Don't know that. Don't take my word for it. But we take that. The reduced recharge on the actual traps, very nice, because your damage comes from really procession of blades. Sometimes purification. Purification is, I don't know. Fragments of Faith also does a decent amount of damage, and plus you can use Fragments of Faith on the move. I'll explain these a little bit later. But the reduced recharge is also nice. Next, we take Zealot's Aggression. Deal extra damage to crippled enemies, and Justice's passive effect cripples enemies. So, again, another damage modifier. 10% damage increase. That's healing. That's might. 10% damage increase, and then a 7% damage increase. So there's going to be a lot of increasing your damage on targets with certain conditions applied to them. And then finally, for Dragon Hunter, I take Big Game Hunter. Striking an enemy tethered by your Spear of Justice causes vulnerability and increases damage dealt once again. So vulnerability, if I can speak English, is of course always nice, because that means you're going to be doing more damage to them. It's might, but turned into a condition on a foe, if that makes any sense. And plus the 10% damage increase, once again, boosting your damage through the roof. If you meet all these conditions and all your cooldowns are off miraculously, you're going to be putting out a lot of damage, and it'd be really, really satisfying and nice to watch. So, and also, Guardian's in a really good spot in rating with the DPS. They're one of the top DPS, I believe. I think maybe like second, third place. Not too sure, because I'm not keeping up with really other classes at the moment. I'm really focused on Guardian. So that is the specialization section for my build. Now, with the actual skills that I have, I'm taking I'm gonna go over the utility skills, because hopefully you guys know what the main weapon skills do. But here's my thought process when picking my utility skills. I'm taking Purification just for the little bit of damage. I feel like in raids, every point of damage counts, and just getting that extra like 200 damage is still nice. Plus it does a fairly large heal, and it will blind and slow enemies, and then it also applies regeneration. And only 24-second cooldown, so it's not too bad actually. Shelter has a 30-second, yeah, I think it is the fastest or the fastest healing skill that comes off of its cooldown. Next, I take Bane Cygnet just from the flat improved power, but also if you activate it, it will CC the target and do a bit of damage. I don't typically use the CC, just because the groups I typically run in are really good at breaking the break bar. And even with your greatsword, you have some CC capability with Binding Blade. So only use this if you desperately need it, because the improved power is also very nice. And then I take Fragments of Faith. You could also take Test of Faith, which is the circle of blades, and if they pass through them, it does a lot of damage. Technically, that would do a lot more damage if they're moving in and out of the circles. But from a pure survivability standpoint and kind of more supporty, you can use this on the move and it won't actually interrupt your casting or using abilities. So it's nice to kind of weave into your normal rotation. It also will explode and just explode fragments, and then your teammates can go pick them up, which gives Aegis to a teammate. It also applies stability, so it's just a bit more of a more cushioning for your raid team. I like it. Don't need to take it, but this is my choice in my group comp and what I've seen to be successful for me. And then finally, I take Procession of Blades. This is on a 20-second cooldown, so it does come off cooldown fairly quickly. And it does about 4,000 damage, minus the might and the conditions of a foe burning or standing in your circle, or them being crippled. There's a lot of things that can modify a Guardian's damage, and if you are really aware of everything that's going on, you can maximize your damage, especially with Procession of Blades, just for the raw amount of damage it puts out, and then its short-ass cooldown. I love this skill so much. I don't know. I really, really love it. And then it also applies Fury, so that's also nice. And then our final one is Feel My Wrath. Feel My Wrath, I think, is basically a staple in raiding. I don't typically see Dragon's Maw being ran unless you need more CC, just to, I don't know. I've always gone with Feel My Wrath, just for the quickness. 5 seconds of quickness is really nice, especially if you have a Mesmer. Now with the recent nerfs to Mesmer's boon duration and sharing, you don't get as much capability and much uptime with quickness, so this helps. And still, with sharing boons and like things to keep boons on people, it does add up and it does really help everything in the long run. It's just nice to, I'm gonna talk about my rotation a little bit, but I just love using Feel My Wrath and then Whirling Wrath at the same time. I don't know, I'm just gonna do it. It's so nice. It's so satisfying to watch. So yeah, that is the PvE Guardian DPS / support build that I have. I'm gonna quickly transition into some more of like my rotation and what I typically do. So I will see you on the flip side. Now transitioning into my rotation. As you saw just there, I actually start with Spear of Justice typically, and then I leap the Faith in just for more pizzazz, just for the video. I don't typically do that, but if you're further away, it's nice, like initiating damage. But then I typically proceed with my symbol, and then I try to use my traps in conjunction with my symbol. I think I missed it there, but I typically set down my symbol, then traps, and then do my greatsword too, and that does quite a bit of damage. And then after I've done that, I wait for my spear to come off cooldown, and both my symbol and Procession of Blades, spinning blade, Trap of Death, and it really works very well. And then by that time, my second skill for greatsword should come off cooldown. Now, just to clarify for this, I was using every single perk, boon, class enhancement in the game just to keep it equal, just to make it simple and fast and see how much damage it theoretically could pump out. And here I provide some Mace gameplay. Not Mace, I'm sorry, Hammer. Mace is a completely different weapon set. But yes, we have the hammer here. If you choose to do hammer, I typically just spam auto attacks. Sometimes I'll throw in a second skill just for a little burst damage. But for this, it's really simple. You just spam one, use your traps and Spirit Justice on cooldown, and then of course your ultimate as it comes up. But for this, because I have quickness, I don't really need to use it. And as you saw back there, I showed you the time it took for me to kill that. This is a weak enemy. No conditions on him whatsoever, and it took about 46 seconds. Not too bad. Did about 20 DPS, pretty sure, and that's pretty good. Definitely always room for improvement. There's always room for improvement in everything. But yeah, that is the rotation of my Guardian with both Great Sword and Hammer, if you choose to do Hammer. And of course your ultimate as it comes up. But for this, because I have quickness, I don't really need to use it. And as you saw back there, I showed you the time it took for me to kill that. This is a weak enemy. No conditions on him whatsoever, and it took about 46 seconds. Not too bad. Did about 20 DPS, pretty sure, and that's pretty good. Definitely always room for improvement. There's always room for improvement in everything. But yeah, that is the rotation of my Guardian with both Great Sword and Hammer, if you choose to do Hammer. Thank you everyone so much for watching. This is more of a high-end endgame PvE style video, though you could use this in open world PvE as well. And maybe when you're leveling, keep this in the back of your mind and maybe work for more Berserker gear if you happen to take this route and you would like to. So thank you everyone so much for watching. I love you all. Love reading your comments. So yeah, I will see you guys in the next video. Subscribe for more content, like the video if you liked it, and comment below, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!